Okay, good afternoon. Good afternoon, LinkedIn Live. How you doing on this very rainy Friday here in the UK? Like typical UK weather, right? Hi, Keon and Yomi. How are you doing?
Doing great,
Good,
Cheryl.
thank you.
Good. And I'm assuming that the rain is coming down wherever you guys are as well, right?
Well, it was pouring
Unfortunately,
down
it is.
earlier this
Yes.
morning, but it's just stopped on my side.
So for those of you that maybe aren't in the UK and are watching this either live or on the replay, yes, it's true. We do always just talk about the weather because you can get all four seasons in one day, right? So, um, thank you so much to Keon Sims and Yomi Okuboyejo. I should really have practiced that pronunciation before we
That's
went
correct.
on.
That's correct.
Was
That
that
is
good?
correct.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for joining me. So, Keon and Yomi are part of the Harambee network from Jacobs, as you can see from Yomi's branded background there with his happy Black History Month message. So, for those of you that aren't in the UK, October is Black History Month for the UK. So, welcome. Thank you for joining me, guys.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Thank you for having us.
That's good because I know that time is precious, right? When you're trying
Definitely.
a staff network on top of a busy day job. So just to introduce our two guests. So Yomi is a senior process engineer at Jacobs, and you work with a variety of clients, don't you, Yomi?
That's correct. Mainly the water companies within the UK as well as industry as well.
Great. And then Keon, who I met in the flesh last week. It was last week, I think.
Yes,
Keon,
yes, it was.
project manager for a fairly sort of like I would say now almost like infamous project here in the UK, which is HS2.
it
RIP.
it is an amazing project. It's still going. It's transformational. It's going to be really good for the UK in general.
Okay.
Although whatever you see in the media, but it's still going.
Yeah. It will bring some benefits, right? It will still
Definitely, 100%.
perfect. And then I always like to share a little bit of stats around whatever topic we're talking about. And so we're talking about staff networks, employee resource groups, business resource groups, whatever they're being called currently. Um, and the percentage of companies in the Fortune 500 in the US that have ERGs is now at 90% and above are the estimates. I don't know whether that would be news to you. I know that in your company, the ERG networks are quite well established in the US, aren't they? Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean the ERGs, which we know are like affinity groups or employee networks, are
Mm.
well, voluntary employee led,
Yeah.
and I think within Jacobs, I would say specifically, we have really good representation of quite a few.
Yeah.
And again, I guess we already know what some of the basics are for them, like just to support the platforms or
Yeah.
employees to come together to share their backgrounds and just to connect and share their experiences.
Yeah.
The bits around education and awareness, which awareness is key, because
Mhm.
my short time within Jacobs, and a lot of the sessions I've been in, has made me realize that the gens or the ERGs are so critical to raise awareness in particular areas,
Yeah.
and of course, just like general advocacy and just like general professional development, and
Yeah.
also on a wider basis like community outreach. So
Yeah.
I think Yomi, how much is it? Is it about six, isn't it?
We have eight
Eight.
ER,
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
eight employee networks within Jacobs.
Yeah.
Again, representing most of the people who are at the company.
Yeah.
And it's a great space and initiative, for us to bring our whole selves to work. Because one thing that we all realize is that coming to work is more than just actually
Mhm.
doing the work.
Mm.
Um, we still live lives. We're still human beings at the end of the day, and what
Yeah.
makes us who we are, we bring that to work, and that has a reflection on our efficiency, for
Yeah.
example. So it is really key that we demonstrate and we make work a safe space, a safe place, and for everyone to be themselves as well as getting the job done. So it's a combination of two things, and that's why they are very important. And
Yeah.
it reflects as well on your efficiency in terms of your staff delivery as well. So
yeah.
Yeah.
I love what you were saying there about almost like the importance of the network in
Yeah.
creating a place where people feel they can be themselves.
Yeah. So, me, for example, well, the main group that I'm a part of, as you're
Mm,
aware of, is Harambee, which
yeah,
is that gen or that ERG set up with its tagline to be Black empowered and engage.
yeah,
And the purpose of Harambee within the company is to impact, to empower, and also to influence Black talent within the company to contribute to the growth of the company itself,
yeah,
and not just that, but the wider community as well.
yeah,
So that's the main one that the ambassador for the London office, Yomi's, covers a lot more for the entire Europe. And then of course I'm a part of the some of the other groups as well. So Prism, which looks after the LGBT community, that's one of the other one. Women's Network, which I've joined up with, that just gives me an understanding of a deeper understanding of some of the issues that women face in general that I may not have been aware of.
yeah.
I have a lot of fun in LASIK because that's an interest of mine, just engaging with the Latin community. I'm actually learning Spanish with them at the moment, which is good.
Oh,
And then you have another one called One World. There is BetNet, which I'm not a part of, but they deal with like the ex-military support. And of course, I think we have ACE, which looks about supporting those within the company as it relates to disabilities. So it's a well-rounded group of
yeah,
ERGs within the company.
yeah,
And the main one that I work with is, of course, Harambee.
yeah,
And I'm a part of an active, well, a member of, not as active as I would want to be in some of the others, because we have to
yeah.
balance things out.
Yeah, exactly. You've got a day job to do as well, haven't you? As well as, as you say, being an ambassador. And hi there, whoever's put a hi in. For some reason, we don't always see the usernames. It depends on how people have logged in, I think. So, hi, and thank you for joining. And it's interesting as you were sort of walking through the different groups that you've got, the names. And I'm going to come to the names because the last ERG leader on here that I had, I mean, she set up the mental health affinity network at her organization, but was also a member of, they called it the LGBT cuties, and they were called the cuties network, right? And so you guys have got harambee. Just explain what harambee means for those that don't know.
So harambee is a Swahili word which means working together in unity.
Yeah.
And it was formed in 2010, I believe. I joined the company a lot later than that. But again, it's a network for Black and ethnic minorities, I would say. But at the same time, we are a diverse and inclusive network. So everybody in the company, has the right to join up. And people join for different reasons. The reason why I joined compared to my other counterparts who might be Caucasian, for example, could be completely different. But our goals are pretty much the same. And that's about allowing everybody to be themselves. But at the same time, from an Harambee point of view, it's about allowing parity across the whole board. So allowing people to see the benefits of their efforts, to allow them to realize that. And we're not just doing it based off the color of our skin, we're doing this based off merit. Sometimes biases get in the way of allowing people
Yep.
to achieve their goals, their career goals, their professional development. And Harambee is just a body that helps with providing the opportunity for that to happen. And at the same time, educating, enlightening other people who might not be aware of those nuances that exist that people need to take on board while, being professional at work. So, like it was said at the beginning, they are very important, are all these employment network groups for staff and for people who may be different from us as well. Because at the end of the day, we are all unique and we need to celebrate our differences. And at the same time, we still need to work together to ensure that happens.
Yeah, and to that effect,
Yeah, go ahead, Keon.
I was just saying, to that effect, as Yomi mentioned, we've even recently created a pretty extensive video that gets that message across and had it distributed to everyone. So Yomi's smiling because the video was just reminding everyone that, Harambee is not just for the Black employees, it's for all our allies, it's for everybody to come together and just welcoming everybody into the group.
Yeah, because actually, and we could go down a real rabbit hole now talking about culture, because culture is actually very different to necessarily the color of your skin or
Yes.
even your ethnicity. You know, culture is actually
Yeah.
something very different. You know, and so it's interesting that you're, you know, potentially almost like broadening the understanding of that, recognizing that there are challenges, you know, when you are of a different race, you know, when your skin is a different color, but also recognizing that in terms of bringing ourselves to, you know, into work and celebrating our cultures and our differences, because a lot of the difference is cultural rather than the color of our skin, if that makes sense. So I love that you're recognizing that as well. How did
Mm.
you guys get involved? So because what I want to get into is you know, I ran a course last month for a group of ERG leaders, and the overwhelming feedback was the time that it takes. You know, so as much as you want to be involved, you want to help and drive this change. Balancing this with a day job is not easy. So why did you volunteer in the first place? Is my first question, and then how do you juggle it with the day job? Were you
I'll go
volunteering?
first because I'm going to go first just because I've been here the longest of the two of us. So, so to be honest, when I first joined our company, I wasn't aware that we had a group called Harambee. So I'm based in Manchester. So one of my friends, work friends, colleagues, however you want to put it, we were very close, and all of a sudden he told me that he was leaving the company, and you know, big surprise. But he was a Harambee ambassador, and as he was leaving, I think the last week, you know, you send out the email, oh, hi guys, I'm leaving, blah blah blah. He says, look, there's a vacancy open, and you're going to do it. So, and then I asked him, okay, what does this entail? There wasn't much information, but I had, this was, I think, in 2020. So just before the George Floyd incident had happened. And as a result of that, we Harambee had put on many events. So I had the luxury of joining those events. We were talking about so many different matters. We had a summit. And out of that summit, during that time, a new charter was born, an initiative to encourage that parity between everybody in the company, especially focusing on the black staff. So that's how I became part of Harambee and then an ambassador. And then obviously with time, um, the existing leaders at the time, the global leads as well as the European leads and some of the ambassadors felt, you know, that I would be a good replacement for the guys who were in that position and were looking to step down, obviously due to other responsibilities. So that's how I became the co-leader of our employment group. Um, I'll pause there for now because it's still a long story, and I'll let Keon go ahead with his
Okay, go ahead, kid. So Yomi, so I would say it sounds like rather than volunteering, you were voluntold. Right?
Yep.
I was
Yep.
voluntold. That's a word. That's a word and a phrase that, you know, that because it happened to me, I'm now being able to do that to others as well, within our leadership team, which is great because sometimes, as we're going to get into it, it's not easy, you know, because you have to balance so many things to get the job done, and you have to do it right. So, but yeah, we'll get into that.
Perfect. Keon, why did you step up? And did you volunteer or were you voluntold?
So my story is slightly different because post pandemic, I was in a different place, trying to plot a new career path, trying to figure out how to get ahead, trying to figure out how to develop my project management aspirations and how that's going to merge with some of the financial thoughts that I had in my head. So I was in like heavy research mode at that time, in addition to a bit of additional studying. And through my excessive time on LinkedIn, I came across an initiative that Jacobs supported, and Harambe was one of the major pushers behind this particular initiative. It was tied in with the Mayor of London's workforce integration network initiative that they had, that was in collaboration with the Birmingham-based EDI consultancy, the Equal Group, and they were about getting big companies in underrepresented areas such as construction, finance, and tech to reach wider and make people aware of Black people or underrepresented groups aware of the possibilities that were there. At that time, I think I had my blinders on, going for the big five, applying to PwC, KPMG, and those companies. I was had my blinders on basically. But in that session, I managed to speak to people within the company, and they opened my eyes to these companies I knew nothing about, or knew nothing about what was possible within them. So that's how I got in to the company. I went through the extensive 3-month application process of tests and interviews and the whole works, and I ended up being successful.
Yeah.
So once I got in, because I got in that way,
Mm.
and that's how I became aware of it. And then historically, I was a part of an organization called the Jamaica Command County Force when I was back in Jamaica. Their motto is "Jung to serve and the seed must," which is like to unite to serve to lead. So altruism is like ingrained. So everything just merged. I've joined the company. I've recognized the organizations that have put this great initiative
Yeah. Mm.
forward to raise awareness. So from day one, I was like, I need to know more about Harambe and their involvement in this process.
Yeah.
I started coming on all these meetings with Yomi and the senior leadership from Harambe. I sit in the background, I listen to the initiatives. I find out about a particular charter that Harambe has tied in with the company directives, the Advancing Justice and Equality Charter, which they've tied into the company's bigger goals and aspirations. And I think I just basically jumped into all the activities from there on. And yeah, I got recognition and then got put into the position as an ambassador because of the activities. So I was just doing activities in the London office, not
Mm.
expecting anything, and then it was just recognized, and I automatically just automatically, I think Yomi and the senior team recognized my input and filtered me into that
Mm.
position.
That's really interesting because I guess hearing your story of how you joined the organization, Harambe really had a strong part to play in that because you were able to see from as an outsider that actually, you know what, there's this organization, they sound great, there are black people that work there, they've got this little support network. So I guess that would have all been part of the what do they call it, the employer proposition, really, the fact that Harambe was there and potentially able to pull somebody like you in. So for anybody that's listening, that's a really interesting one in terms of, how involved are your employee resource groups, staff networks, affinity groups involved in things like recruitment and or helping to shape what that looks like. Because that potentially is untapped resource, untapped ideas and
Yeah.
thinking about how to do recruitment even. So I like that. So let's talk about because you've both got very busy day jobs, despite the announcements about
Yeah.
HS2. Keon is busy project managing. Yomi has got processes to engineer, etc. So how do you juggle the day job with your ERG responsibilities? Is a question that I've got for you. I'm just going to read this before we go to your answer. Let me read this really long comment. So I'm the chair of the Ethnic Diversity Network in Openreach, but prior to this, I was part of the committee. I had applied last year but was unsuccessful. So I worked over the year to support meaningful change, but I also had a vision and I am a creative individual. So networking internally and externally, looking at best practice, I went for the role again. And here I am. Yes. My focus is now exploring the complex layers of intersectionality and how do we speak to a wider community without putting, I'm sure the rest of it, I probably can only read so much through. But congratulations there for somebody that is really interested in it, then actually goes and does the
Yeah.
work in terms of how can we make this better. That's I really absolutely applaud that. So just talk about juggling the day job with your ERG responsibilities. Whichever of you wants to start first, how do you manage that?
Yeah, I'm sure Yomi's gonna have a lot to say because I am impressed by just the amount of activities that he's involved with. I see everything in the calendar, but we have to balance things out what we choose to be involved in or not.
Mm.
So I do believe it's really crucial to find that balance that works for you as the individual,
Mhm.
that helps you to contribute meaningfully to the organization, and that's without sacrificing your well-being or your professional responsibilities,
Yeah,
which is very important, of course.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so just as an example, I guess we had Pride Month in June. Then we had Spanish Heritage Month in September. Now we're in
Mhm.
Black History Month. So if I was to be involved, like in the three organizations that are stretched across these. I imagine I would be totally out of it now.
Yeah.
But as I'm focusing on like Harambee and just supporting some of the other activities, that's one way I think I kind of try and balance things out.
Okay.
Just using the recent events, for example, seeking support, I would say is one of the would be a key thing to figure out how to balance and not or avoid being overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So if you're on the verge of burnout, you shouldn't hesitate to ask for support. Which the event that we've held yesterday, which was accelerating Black inclusion,
Mm-hmm.
which was a joint event with APM, for example. I think 2 days before the event, I recognized that although I had a team and things were going well, but it was getting a little bit much, and I had to pull in one of our members, Coyote, who jumped in and he made it so much easier with his. He was just instructed, "This is what we need. This is what we need to make things easier." So seeking support is
Yeah.
one of those things that I would say, and I guess a follow on, since I've had to delegate to Coyote what to do, for example, I would probably say delegation and collaboration
Yeah.
would be one of those other things to kind
Yeah.
of avoid burnout.
Definitely.
And well, time management is without saying that you have to literally prioritize your task
Yeah.
in order to manage your time efficiently. You have to figure out time management techniques that work for you. At least that's what I do, because we do quite a lot for the networks within Jacobs.
Yeah.
So, using calendars, lists, various project management tools, allocating specific time for specific activities and actually trying to stick to it.
Yeah.
And I don't think we can underestimate the importance of making your activities known or trying to have a relationship with your manager,
Yeah.
because if my manager was not supportive of everything that I was doing, I think I would have been burnout a long time ago. But we have an expectation
Yeah.
and we know how we're going to juggle time, and
Yeah.
we are in it together, kind of, and that gives me that confidence to know that I can shuffle things around and I can
Mm-hmm.
manage my own time how I see fit. And
Yeah.
there's a buy-in for these activities, and that takes off some of the stress. And
Yeah.
stress can lead into burnout as well.
Yeah.
And I think my final comment on this is that sometimes, although it may be hard, some of these activities you kind of have to learn to say no, really,
Yeah.
to some things. Yeah, it can be very
Definitely.
challenging,
Yeah.
and also I've learned also, so our members that are supporting us with all of these activities, we
Yeah.
also have to be respectful and understanding when our members tell us no, that they can't help us with something,
Yeah.
and ensure that they're not excluded from anything going forward because they said no, because these are the same people that are going to come back around to help you in other activities and prevent that overall
Yeah.
stress and burnout. So it's a overall wholesome management of
Overall
those pointers that
strategy.
I've mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you mentioned some really good things there. So oh, and Aisha, hi. So I've just spotted your comment on LinkedIn. So she was talking about, how do we speak to a wider community without putting someone in a box. So hi Aisha, thank you for joining. So you were talking there about delegating, and I wrote down, many hands make light work. It's something that my grandmother used to say, right?
Yeah.
Many hands make light work. So this thing about delegating and almost having, I'm talking now to ERG leaders about having almost like your internal power team, right? Of people, whether they be in IT or in HR or in internal communications, people that you know are kind of like supportive and will go above and beyond to kind of help you get things done. Your informal power team. You talked about time management and obviously support from your own manager as well. How about you, Yomi? Is there anything you want to add into that? How do you juggle the day job
Um,
with your, because you're EMEA wide, you're European wide, right? So you're looking after a
it's
larger
just,
remit as well.
that's right. I mean, if I'm being totally honest, I'm still learning. I'm still learning. I mean, this is my second year, and
Yeah,
I'm still learning. The responsibility cannot be taken lightly, I would say.
yeah, yeah,
Um, and I know the word delegation gets used a lot sometimes, but at the same time, we have to respect that other people are busy and they have priorities as well. I myself have got a family as well, so I've got family. I've got my 40 hours of work that I need to contribute to the company every week. I've got my own personal goals and ambitions. I've got kids who need to go for football practice, who go to the library and I need to put them to bed. So it's difficult sometimes, but one of the things, at least with Jacobs, is the whole we live inclusion principle. And they do try, to make it as easy as possible for us. There is flexibility, but at the same time, to deliver events and communication as well to staff, it takes a lot of time, in all honesty. But we find a way to make it work. The leadership team, they're very helpful as well. I can always count on people to be supportive and to help out where I am struggling, for example. Where we have UK-wide events, I rely on them solely, to help me out in ensuring that we deliver a product that I feel funny using the word customers, but at the end of the day, our membership are our customers, and we have to ensure that they're getting the best service of being part of the network. So with that being said, there's a lot of self-discipline, prioritization, networking, delegation, setting goals for yourself. Time management is something that I'm still working on, I have to be honest. And I do ask our senior leadership within the company just for advice on how they do it, because running a multi-million, company is hard, and if I'm struggling, I can only imagine how the people above me are also struggling. So, sometimes we, you hope for the best, and people do appreciate, that the effort that you're putting in. And I think that's the reward of it all. I think that's where it all makes sense. Once you're getting that feedback from individuals about how important or how special or what it meant to be able to be part of the event or the network, and then continuously coming back to you for advice or questions, I think that's where you get the satisfaction from, to be honest, because we don't generally get a bonus or paid for all our efforts, and no matter how much time we put into it, I think it's the feedback from the membership and from the people who join the events that make it worthwhile, and the changes that you can see for the younger generation coming through the company. I mean, as Keon said, he came in through the initiative that Jacobs and Harambee put together, and it's those kind of things that make it worthwhile. So that regardless of all the time you spend crying about, oh, I don't have time for this, that, or the other, it's those kind of results that make you think that this is worth it at the end of the day.
It is difficult on the time management thing. I was thinking there about one of the things I always say about time is being ruthless with your time. Be really ruthless with it almost, which kind of sounds negative, but it's not. But there is, linking back to what Keon was saying about saying no to certain things, or it may be a not yet. It may be a not yet, or it may be actually I'm not able to help you with that, but somebody else might be able to. So there's all of those tips. Maybe that's something you as a leadership team could have a session on. What are the time management tips that you're using that work for you? Because otherwise, I was thinking as you were talking, Yomi, and Keon as well, we know that especially, in certain cultures, African, Caribbean, Asian cultures, there is almost that mantra of you got to work twice as hard, right, to be recognized. So imagine if you're doing that, you're working twice as hard, putting in more than you feel you have to, because you feel that there's a penalty based on your identity, and then you're leading a staff network. You're almost trying to work 3 times as hard almost. So there is that thing about how you find that balance, particularly with time, is quite key. I want to come on to something that we've talked about quite a lot off camera, but how important is it to have leadership support for the for the ERGs and that sponsorship support for the ERGs themselves? How important is that in your minds?
I mean, it's key. It's key because at the end of the day, if we don't have buy-in from the senior leadership, to get things done, I can't even imagine what that looks like, to be honest. Because we need people with influence within the company to ensure that what our visions are being realized. Sometimes, obviously, the network groups are there specifically for those individuals who need it. And if I have a need and I bring it to the forefront, I bring it to our executive sponsor, for example, and once she buys into it, I can rest assured that we'll find a way to deliver that particular need.
Yeah.
Without that in place, I just can't see how things would
Mhm.
get done. Because at the end of the day, you need those channels or those bridges to
Yeah.
help you get your message to completion. I would say, to see it from inception is one thing, having the idea, but making it work
Yeah.
with the powers that be, I think is vital. Without that, it would be a very hard and difficult struggle. So I appreciate our VP. So we have
Yeah.
Kate Kenny, who's one of our VPs in Jacobs, and she's been great. I mean,
Phenomenal.
even with her feedback that she gives to me, that my line managers can see, all of that makes a big difference.
Yep.
So without them, none of this would actually work. So from leadership to our leadership team, ambassadors, for example, it is very important that we have them on board.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even me being in Jacobs and then out in HS2, for example, and I think one of the things that normally comes across is from a sponsorship perspective, it's not just having sponsors that are just mere figureheads.
Mm.
The importance of them being genuine and being actively engaged with the groups, so they can be at the ground level in terms of advocating for the needs and working collaboratively with us to advance our diversity and inclusion initiatives. It's so important.
Yeah.
Just to touch on some of the things that Yomi mentioned, for example, Kate, being present at a lot of our activities and just being present at these
Mm.
activities, just the access to the resources necessary to make these things happen. Access to these resources would not have been possible without that level of sponsorship. So, just the funding that is required, for example, the meeting spaces, the technology, whatever it is that we need to make these happen. Within Harambe, for example, just as a part of our charter to help to recognize our colleagues, we have like the Black Engineer of the Year's Awards, the Women of Color in Engineering Awards, the Black Talent Awards, which we're at recently, which
Mhm.
Kate Kenny was there physically representing us and showing that visibility. um, Other initiatives that Harambe is a part of that benefits, um, well, it contributes to structural change in the broader societies, not just within Jacobs itself, such as the Chorus Scholarship, that it helps to expand that Black educational funding.
Mhm.
2020 Levels is another company that we're supporting recently, and that company is not just supporting Black people for general development, but also their entrepreneurial exploits as well. So
Yeah.
just access to this high level
Yeah.
resources is something I just like to bring to the forefront that I don't think would be possible without sponsorship. And as Yomi said, just that visibility and influence and the credibility that it gives to the initiatives we put forward, them being present
Yeah.
is another really big deal.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and just general advocacy and
Yeah.
influence in the company itself.
Yeah, I love that. The visibility, the credibility, access to resources and funding. That you both mentioned. Yeah, it's really important. And so, and to any senior leaders watching this, I would say, if you're not involved in supporting your staff networks or affinity groups, as you say, it can be as simple as just going along to a couple of events just to
Yep.
show that support, just to be present. I think
Yeah,
that would
because
be really
yeah, just being present, it really sends a very strong and powerful message of
important.
their commitment to
Yeah.
diversity and inclusion,
Yeah.
or whatever it is that network is doing. That as a message it's sent. And when I joined Jacobs, that's one of the messages that came across to me without anybody telling me anything, because I
Yeah.
could see the support from top down. I could see it in written documents. I could see it in meetings. And I could see the visibility, and that was actually reassuring.
Yeah. Amazing. As we finish off, because we've gone slightly over, and I'm conscious that you guys have got day jobs to go back. As we finish off, what have been some of the biggest learnings, as you've been running these networks, or what tips would you give to your fellow staff network leaders, outside of Jacobs or inside Jacobs? Who wants to start with that? Keon, do you want to start?
Yeah, I guess I'll just give one maybe in terms of the learning. You're not going to be very useful if you don't try to take care of yourself and the networks that you're a part of. So you because yeah, I've actually seen others that have been close to burn, but of course we support them to get
Mhm.
over it and spread the load and get everybody back together. And it's so easy for you to have these things like run away from you, without saying anything or speaking out or getting the help that you needed, just like fading into the background. So just that message of support and looking out for your health and well-being in
Yeah,
everything that you're doing,
yeah,
is a message that I would like to really push out there as a
yeah,
final statement.
yeah. Great. Thanks, Keon. And Yomi, from you, any tips or any learnings that you would pass on to fellow ERG leaders?
How it's well, first and foremost, I have to say, the benefits outweigh the struggle. And
Yeah,
I think people generally just need to there needs to be some sort of acceptance that the work you are doing is making a big difference.
yeah,
So never feel disheartened by the lack of recognition sometimes that comes along with your contributions.
Mm,
People are satisfied and are happy the fact that we exist, and I think that's the most important thing.
yeah,
Even if we don't see ourselves, we are making a big difference, and I think that's the key thing here. It's not about self glorification, or we're doing it just for the recognition.
yep.
The why is very important, and as
yeah,
long as the company is backing you, your senior leadership, you've got backing from them, and they're putting their money where their mouth is. I think those two things, I think it is very essential to keep the mission going, I would say.
yeah,
So just for everybody out there who is part of an employee network, I would just say keep going,
Yeah.
and you will see the change, you will see the differences, and hopefully everything that comes along with that will be positive, and just keep going.
yeah, definitely. No, some great tips there, Keon. As you were talking, so you were talking about looking after your well-being, and it reminded me of the saying, "You can't pour from an empty cup." Like if you're not well and kind of full, it's difficult for you to then support others. And then,
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of what you were saying, the benefits outweighing the struggle, you are making a difference. And for some reason, I was reminded of the saying my nan always used to say, your rewards will be in heaven. Even
Yeah.
if you don't see the rewards now, the rewards in
Yeah.
heaven.
Yeah. Human nature is to get the rewards now. We want instant gratification, and that doesn't always come along with what we do. But
Yeah. Yeah.
we are making a difference, and I think that's the most important thing. No matter how people want to see it, like I said, it's the feedback that makes it worthwhile. And to see
Yeah.
people like Keon as part of our company, part of Harambee, it gives me confidence that once I step down, that the guys behind me, they're gonna, they're going to do a great job,
Yeah,
and they've got the backing of the company. So yeah.
amazing. Good, good, good. Well, thank you both for joining. And I would say, if anybody's watching and they've got any questions, maybe about what Harambee is doing and what Jacobs is doing, please feel free to reach out to Keon and Yomi. And if you want to talk to me about, ERG leadership, tips, coaching, courses, etc., you can find me here. Where's the best place for them to find you, Keon and Yomi? Is it here on LinkedIn, or are you on other
Yeah.
platforms as well? Here on
Yeah.
LinkedIn.
Here on LinkedIn would be the best for me.
Perfect. Okay, great. All right. Well, thank you so much, guys. It's been really, really useful, and well done for all of the amazing work that you're doing at Jacobs. I know it is definitely making a difference.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
I
you. Thank you
appreciate
very
it.
much.
Appreciate being here. It's
Have a
been
good
a
weekend.
good
Thanks,
conversation.
everyone.
Have a good weekend.
Thanks. Bye.